Okay, so welcome to the next unit here. Our next unit is non-contact forces. Actually, the whole unit is forces in general, but we're going to start with the ones that you're probably not as familiar with, which are the forces of non-contact forces. And so, as we go through these notes, you guys are supposed to be filling in your document. So you have that document called non-contact forces guided notes. If you notice, the document is split into two sections, week 1, week 2. We are only doing week 1 this week. Each of these videos will stop where you're supposed to stop for the notes for that day. And then you'll continue on the other days according to how I have it set up for you in Google Classroom. If you go through, you'll notice that on the document, our guided notes document, it is much less filled out for you by me. I have kind of like the headings for the major headings and the subheadings for the slides and things like that. And then you guys are pretty much typing in the rest. So the format is started for you, but you're doing a lot of the typing. The expectation for you to earn all 5 points for this is for you to be able to actually go through and grade all 5. I'm sorry, to get all 5 points is to have the entire week 1 part of the document filled in by the due date. And that's with 100% accuracy. That's not unreasonable expectation to have. You guys are going through. It shouldn't be that hard for you to be able to go through and just copy down the notes. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's start at the beginning. What is force? So obviously force, let me get rid of this here. All right, so for you guys, force is shouldn't be something completely new to you. A force is a push or a pull exerted on an object resulting from an object's interaction with another object. All right, don't worry so much about what I have in red font and what I have in black font. Just kind of go through, make sure you're getting all of that put in for whatever needs to be typed into your doc. As I go through this, if I'm moving too quickly, pause so that you can type in your doc, okay, and then come back to it. You don't want to miss what I'm saying about each of the bullet points as I go through and I explain them in a little bit more detail or give examples or tricks of how to remember certain things, because that's the whole point of me doing this video with the PowerPoint instead of just sharing with you the PowerPoint. It's to go through like we would be in class together and taking notes. And so super important for you to be able to listen to me as I go through and explain what it is that you're writing down. All right, so a force, a push or a pull exerted on an object resulting from an object's interaction with another object. So I can be one object and a chair can be the other object. And if I push that chair, I'm exerting that force. I'm the one object resulting from my interaction with the chair. And I can push that chair. I could also do the opposite, which would be to pull the chair. And so either way would be correct in terms of what a force is. So there are two main categories of forces that we're going to talk about. First one is contact forces. And those are the ones that you're probably more familiar with. We won't spend a ton of time with those, but things like friction and anything else that you might consider, like even my example of me pushing or pulling a chair. That's me in contact with that object. I'm literally touching the object. Friction, there's two surfaces that are touching each other. Those are contact forces. Where we're going to start, though, the ones that you might not be as familiar with are non-contact forces. And as we go through this, you might be thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I understand how gravity could be a non-contact force. That totally makes sense that gravity is a non-contact force. But the other ones might not be quite as familiar with, and that might be a little bit trickier for you to understand. So we're going to start with non-contact forces first. Non-contact force. So a non-contact force is a force, so just go off of that definition we just had, push or a pull, when two objects are interacting with each other. But this time, it's not in direct contact. Okay, they're not touching, so they're non-contact. Simple to understand. They didn't put some weird Greek or Latin name for this. They're non-contact forces because they're not in contact with each other, but yet they're still interacting with each other. There are 3 types that we're going to learn about in this unit, and we're going to get through 2 of them here this week. Gravitational, magnetic, and and electrical. Now, for those three, that's not the order that we're gonna go in. We're actually gonna start with electrical, then we'll move to gravitational, then we'll do magnetic. But those are the three that you need that you're going to need to know. And for each of them, there are certain factors and variables that affect the strength of those forces, and you're going to need to know those and how they're related to each other. All right, here's a super important part of this: is that since these objects or forces are not in contact with each other, since they're non-contact forces, it's really important to understand that all of this happens in an area called a field. Okay, it's this field, and the field is this region of influence. Okay, and it looks like my screen's covering this up here a little bit. It's a region of influence in which non-contact forces are exerted. And so that's a really important part as we go through this unit. The first simulator that you're going to work on and you're going to start today for the electrical non-contact force is all about that electrical field and understanding the electrical field. I think, it's a little bit difficult for this one because we don't get to see the electric field. Not that you can see the gravitational field or the magnetic field, but it's even harder to understand the electrical field. That's why the simulator is actually a really good way for us to see this. So that you guys know, the two labs that you're going to work on this week are not new because we're doing remote learning. These are labs that I did just in regular class and we would have done when we came back from spring break anyways. So just know that these are set up for you to do to understand these concepts with non-contact forces, and they do a really good job of doing it. It's one of those reasons why we love these PhET simulators, because they let us kind of see stuff that we normally wouldn't be able to see. Okay, that's it for the notes today. So